evening. Sorry about that. Well, welcome and good evening and happy National Youth Day and welcome to Break the Wall. I'm Nina Kler and I'm the co-creator of this event. And I am so happy and so grateful to have been able to partner with the award-winning MASH Project Foundation, my dear friend Ashish Virgi, and of course the number of partners who have joined us in making this event happen. So over the next 5 days, what you can expect is conversations that matter to the youth, conversations that should be happening, but there aren't enough of. Sometimes people are afraid to have them, and sometimes people don't know enough about this topic. But we're unafraid, and we want to have these conversations. So you'll be hearing about everything to do with sex, sexuality, reproductive, and reproductive health, and your rights associated with that as well. So I think I'm going to stop here for now and not steal the thunder and invite Ashish Virgi, the CEO and founder of MASH Project Foundation, to take over from here. Ashish, all yours.
Thank you so much, Nina. Very, very excited to partner with you to bring the first Break the Wall. And a very, very happy National Youth Day to all of you as well. It's a very special day for us at MASH. It's a constant reminder for us the work that we do at MASH, and then what we continue to work in enabling and creating empowering spaces for young people. We started almost 8-9 years ago, 2013. It seems like a very, very long journey, but in the last few years, I would say with the constant support of people like you and our partners, we've been able to create such great programs, such great platforms to empower millions of change makers. So it's a special day for us to celebrate the work that we have done, all of us together, and what we'll do from here on. Um, Break the Wall, like you said, is an initiative where we are looking to create bring voices from the ecosystem, and that's what we do at MASH, is to create an ecosystem where you have different stakeholders coming together, sharing ideas, creating communities, building capacities of young people, and that's what we will be witnessing in the next 5 days. I am extremely grateful to our partnership with Condom Alliance, which is supported by Durex, and other partners, including Shiv Nada University, Purpose, our media partners, Daily Hunt, Josh, and the Quint, who has come together to take this very important topic of young people's sexual and reproductive health and about their intimate wellness to millions of people. So thank you for all the support, and I'm very grateful to each one of you. So why are we talking about young people's health and wellness, right? Like India, everybody talks about, it's the country with the largest youth population, right? Almost 30% and over 30% of our population are young people. We are the future, we are the leaders of tomorrow, right? And our wellness and health is extremely important when we talk about making India an emerging on the next big superpower, right? um, Large part that includes giving us spaces where we can talk about issues to us doesn't exist or are very confined, right? So for us, as a youth organization, we like to work together with so many young people across the country to help them understand what issues that matters to them, right? So Break the Wall is one step towards, and we are now looking to create much bigger programs and projects that will continue to empower many more young people and create spaces, empowering spaces where they can exchange ideas, have conversations which matters to them. uh, I'm also very, very excited and grateful to have Ravi Bhatnagar with us today, who has been a key driving force behind some of the exemplary initiatives that we see in the space of health and wellness and intimate wellness. He has been a big supporter of and advocating young people's issues, young people's right, and has been championing these causes. In the last few months, I've had a great privilege to work very closely with him in designing some of the big programs. I've learned very closely listening to his ideas, which gives constant inspirations to young people like us. And we need many, many more people like from different industries, from different stakeholders to come and support and make young people as part of this conversation. So, very brief introduction before I invite Ravi sir for his opening keynote address at Break the Wall. He's a global public health and public affairs professional who is currently the Director of External Affairs and Partnerships at Reckitt. He has been a forefront of implementing various programs for the welfare of different marginalized communities and is strong believer of leaving no one behind. Under his leadership, Reckitt has initiatives that received over 40 national and international awards, including from the President of India. And his causes, his programs, his initiatives are really role model as young people. We've been fan of the some of the projects like Banega Swasth India, Mission Pani, and now hoping many more other programs focusing on young people like the Birds and the Bees tag and many many more. So very very excited and looking ahead to hear from Ravi Bhatnagar. Over to you, Ravi.
Thank you so much, Ashish, and thank you, everyone. The young team of MASH, who has actually put this show together for 4 days for all of us. I feel very privileged to be a part of, the lineup of the speakers, and many congratulations for setting this together. Uh, Before I say, I want to, thank few people, starting from Ashish, Sandeep Chan from SHM, Dr. Komal from Plan, Dr. Jyotsna from Reckitt, and many others who are championing this cause of young people. I know, there's a big youth brigade, but what a fantastic day today, which happens to be the National Youth Day. And this day is an inspiration from Swami Vivekananda. And what a day for me personally. I'm the keynote speaker for this day. And just before I formally open this session, would love to say some words about MASH. So the MASH Foundation, Project Foundation, was founded with an aim to create empowering spaces for the young people who are passionate about making a social impact. It builds communities' capacity and amplify the voices of the change makers. And Ashish, yourself, you are a change maker yourself. And the great thing is, the foundation, the MASH Foundation, was awarded by the Gates Foundation with the prestigious Goalkeepers Global Awards in 2020 for its work on the Sustainable Development Goal 2030 for the young people. What a proud moment for all of us, including me. I'm personally associated with an organization like MASH. As we know, like, this day is a National Youth Day, so we'll start with a quote of by Swami Vivekananda. So the supreme value of youth period is incalculable and indispensable. Youth life is the most precious life. Youth is the best time. The way in which you utilize this period will decide the nature of the coming years, what lie ahead of you. The birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda is celebrated across India as a National Youth Day to honor one of the greatest philosophers and spiritual leaders. This is because his ideologies are a great inspiration for the youth, previously and now, and for the generations to come. The youth of today are a powerful force because they are our future. They have an open canvas to hone their skills and abilities and be the change that the world needs. The youth of today are significantly contributing towards the challenges that the planet faces by addressing environmental issues, climate issues, sexual wellness issues, and many other issues which have all alignment with the SDGs. And last but not the least, the 17th SDG is the most important, which is the SDG on the partnerships. And the classic example here I see is the partnership between the Durex Condom Alliance, SHM, and the MASH Foundation, which brings their whole energy and the leadership for the youth in India so that youth can learn, youth can be a part, and can drive the processes. The Indian startup ecosystem is being led by the young entrepreneurs and innovators who have created products and services that have changed the economy of the country and helped millions. As per data reports, 65% of the India's population is less than 35 years of age. And with an average age of 29 years, we are at the youngest country globally. The Indian government has created opportunities for the young likes. Skill India Mission, government initiatives such as Startup India, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana have further enabled entrepreneurs and increased employment opportunities. The overall rate of literacy among India's youth has increased, with approximately 90% being able to read or write. They are also digitally savvy and this has further led to online learning and skill development. In fact, a huge part of the social media ecosystem is led by the young influencers who inspire and have managed to create a new industry in itself. They have dreams and aspirations. They know how to get it done. Today, we have created this platform on National Youth Day with Durex to educate the youth on the sexual health and wellness. This topic is relevant and needs focus because it can make or break this generation. Unfortunately, a lot of young folks today get learnings from the internet or movies. While this may be an easier route, it doesn't really touch on the key aspects of the sexual health and the intimate wellness. This platform, Break the Wall, is for building necessary awareness and knowledge on sexual and reproductive health and rights. Over the course of 5 days, these renowned panelists will touch on multiple topics that range from removing mindset barriers pertaining to sex to practice safe sex and also addressing the need for being more open and diverse and inclusive for all. This is an engagement and a safe platform to address concerns around the sensitive subject. With this, I launch Break the Wall, where our partners and our esteemed panelists speakers will be addressing the challenges faced by the Indian youth. Thank you so much again for giving us an opportunity personally to me and Durex as a brand. Thank you.
Ravi, thank you so much for your invaluable input. It's always such a pleasure to see you with your smiling face and looking well now. And you passed on COVID to me virtually. So, but up here fighting for the cause. So happy to be doing this with you. We're really happy, to see the kind of work that you're doing at Durex and at Rec, especially when it comes to the health and wellness of the youth, which is largely ignored. So really kudos to you and appreciate the work that you're doing. And we're so very grateful, Ravi, to your support and your partnership for Break the Wall, because through Break the Wall, we're hoping to bring all the diverse voices which don't get center stage and time in mainstream. So thanks to Break the Wall, we do hope to have those voices on the stage, and not only on the stage, but amplified. So thank you so much for that. And we wish you all the best and look ahead to a greater partnership to impacting millions of young people. I love the fact that I'm not young anymore, but young at heart, working with Ashish, my dear friend, and Ravi. It's been a pleasure to get to know you as well now. So Ashish,
Nina, yeah, I was just wondering, like, since we are have a little time ahead and it's difficult to catch Ravi sir, and he's a very, very busy man. So, Ravi sir, if you allow, we do have 5 minutes. Would love to use this to know a little more about when you work with any program, and Break the Wall is an initiative where we are also as young person, young change makers, really looking to understand and learn from leaders like you, right? So when you go and design such massive programs, right? Like, I'm honestly, even before knowing and meeting you, I know, like, Banega Swasth India it's created a benchmark. So is Mission Pani. So is so many great programs. So what goes behind when you start and design a program like this? Because that will really allow us to also think big. And what could be a better day like a National Youth Day to, like, not think big. So would like to
Ashish,
understand.
thank you so much for this question. Like, it's basically believing in you and the believing in the power of youth, Ashish. Before meeting you, I knew your work. Your work traveled faster than your name to me, Ashish, and the work of MASH. And I have been attending the goalkeepers from over a decade now.
Right.
In Nigeria, I have attended. In South Africa, I have attended. In many countries, and launched several programs of national stature, like keeping girls safe in school in Nigeria with Naomi Campbell, with Chris Martin, Jay Z, and many others. And the whole program was designed on like how to keep girls safe in schools, because the HIV rates among the school-going girls was very high in the countries, in some of the African countries. So it's largely the youth brigade which keeps me also young. And when I hear you guys, like, I really feel inspired. And uh, the magic is basically, Ashish, how you connect with the people.
Yeah,
Your network is your net worth.
absolutely.
I'm also repeating it again. Your network is your net worth. And Ashish, your net worth is a lot, a lot, a lot. I don't know like how to quantify that, but you were able to, if you see the number of panelists who are there on the, your 4 or 5 days program, you have amazing lineup. And this only happens when you have a currency of trust. And then
Absolutely.
getting someone like Nina for hosting this program, and she consenting to be a part of this discussion and dialogue. And there are a lot of very, very important people whom you are bringing, like Saddam from Yan, from
Yes.
Manipur. Like, I mean, sir, there's some inspirational stories. Like, there's some people who are behind the scenes, like, who are not visible to us right now, but they're your tech team members. So, who are they? If you see the median age is around 25 to 30 years approximately,
Even
right?
younger, I would
And
say.
yeah, and these are the guys actually who are running this show, and they're creating all magic. And I'm very sure, like, Ashish, with this whole work, what you are going to put together, you will be having more number of people who are connectors. This in
Yes.
this VUCA world, especially,
Yes.
you need to have
Yes.
more connectors. It's not the money; money will come, but more important is the big ideas,
Yes.
the willingness to make the change, the willingness to contribute nationally, globally, the willingness to be glued, the willingness to learn, and last but not the least, Ashish, what works best for me is resilience
Yes.
from everyone, like my meeting with Nina, or my meeting with Dr. Komal, or my meeting with Dr. Jyotsna, or my meeting with Saddam, or my meeting with Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi, or with Ashok Rao Kavi, or you. So every time there are some challenges which I look into, and I challenge myself, like how we do better. And
Hmm.
break the wall is something like it's a leap ahead now, it's a leap, it's a leapfrog process where we have moved from, I'm not saying we are leaving birds in the beanstalk, but a big program which we have already designed for the Northeast, for the seven Northeastern state, which is the birds in the
Yes.
beanstalk. From there, now it's a quantum jump to reach out to 10 million youths together, along
Absolutely.
with the consensuality program. And
Yes.
I'm very sure you are our key partner, and we have other partners also with whom we are working, like Plan India, SOCHM, and the Condom Alliance, which is a an association of all the condom marketeers, from Manforce to Durex. Everyone is there under the one umbrella. What a beauty! Like, people like you keep us on toes and motivate us, and you know, resilience
I
is the key,
I would
Ashish.
absolutely, sir. Ravi, sir, you mentioned something very valid, and thank you so much for your kind words. I would like to, since we have the privilege of time today, so what do you expect from young people when you design program like these? Because while we go and talk to youth communities, we are also the bridge builders, right? So I think we have a great opportunity where we can also create that bridge between so many young people and like stakeholders and like people who are shaping policies, who are designing large scale programs. So, what is your expectation from young people of today?
So young people are young people from urban India. They are people from Bharat as well as India. So I will, like, I'm borrowing this line from my senior vice president Gaurav, who says, "Sabka vikas, sabka prayas." This I want to say to everyone. Like, we need to stand collective. If we don't stand collective, then the nation building will never happen. And as youth, like, we are all harbingers of change, and we need to build our nation very strongly. And for nation building, every inch matters, every step counts. So, like, if we all take the steps, if we all like, I launched a program, I remember, Ashish, which was Mere 10 gaj. In English, we translate it to my 10 yards. If we take care of our 10 yards individually, then collectively, like, you can serve the nation. And we are the youngest population, in the world. So if we are the youngest population in the world, then we have all the opportunities. And I see glass, half full, and I see, like, there is a huge opportunity for each one of us to deliver our best, rather than sitting and cribbing, rather than doing nothing. It's better to do something which is constructive, and and if the criticism also has to be done, that should be constructive criticism. That can only happen when you actually move certain miles. So everyone have to be mover and shaker in his, her, or in a binary way. But definitely, like, we should not leave anyone behind. And this whole nation has given top CEOs in the world. If you see the
Absolutely.
CEOs, even the Indian, like the Reckitt Global CEO is also Indian. The earlier
Yes.
CEO was also Indian. And like
Yes.
this, like Indra Nui, like she was also from the India origin. So like
Yeah,
that,
Lina,
like we give
Lina
best of
Nair,
the
who
brain.
Lina Nair just became CEO of Chanel,
Yeah,
so it's
very,
good.
very
Yeah.
true, very true, Ashish. The
Yeah.
huge potential, our country is great, our people are great, and there is one thing because we are addressing youth, I must tell everyone one thing, which is very, very close to my heart. I have a colleague, Sahil Talwar, and he works with one of the organizations called Dainik Jagran, and he takes care of the purpose programs there. I remember that guy. He's a third again, where in the last COVID wave, when a lot of people were there were a lot of people who were down with COVID, seriously ill. That was the one guy I remember, like who has personally helped a lot of people with the plasma, with lot of hospitalizations, a lot of arrangement for the ventilators and the oxygen cylinders. That was a very, very crazy time for all of us. And these last 18 months have been super crazy. And after this third wave now, again, like the craziness is there somewhere, right? So that guy told me one thing, Ravi, like, what I bring, I was discussing with him, what keeps you motivated? He says, I read, he's a Sikh, that guy. He says, like, in our Gurdwara, like, you don't see the caste, creed, religion. You just sit in the line. You can be rich or poor. Every word is served equally. And who knows, like, who has eaten in the plate previous to you and who is washing the utensils. So there is something which is very selflessness. If we are selfless and if there is selfless love, I'm very sure that love is very much important in these difficult times when people are going crazy, when the mental health support is required, when the emotional support is required. If we will not stand with each other as youth, and if we will not be doing the work collectively, and if we are not resilient enough, we'll all break down. Relationships are very important. Therefore, I say, like, the currency of trust you earn while working with each other, and that should be, that should increase incrementally, not in the leapfrogs like 1 plus 2 is equal to 2. It should be 1 plus 1 is equal to 11. And I have a lot of personal examples of youth who challenge me, who motivate me, and I'm very sure they will keep doing. And my mind is very open. And although, like, I have touched 40 now, but I still think, like, a huge way to actually learn from the youth. And there are the endless possibilities. The startup ecosystem, the delivery ecosystem, the tech ecosystem, the purpose ecosystem, the guys like Dr. Komal, like, in the mid 30s, people like her being getting promoted and leading the path as a chief of party. I remember when I started my career, I was a chief of party. So I hardly see people. And someone actually posted a job 2 days back, and I was asking in a forum, what is the salary slab? I said, the guy said, like, I asked, like, is it 50 lakhs? The guy said, no, it's for the young people. So young people, they don't deserve this much. I said, when I was young, my salary was into two of 50 lakhs when I started my career. Right. So why don't they deserve? We have to change the mindsets. We have to challenge the status quo. If we will not challenge the status quo, then we have to take all the things what people tell us. And we need to be ready to challenge the people. And we can only challenge when we are all collective. So if there is a collective, then there is a good opportunity and we can actually excel, exceed, and definitely hold hands of each other. Nowadays, like, it's COVID time. So I will say namaste is very important, and keep ourselves safe. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Ravi, I'm going to hop in here. I have to ask a question now that we had this for a few more minutes. That in hindsight, now that I know you've crossed over to the other side of 40, that when you were young and now in hindsight, what are the lessons you wish you knew then? I'd love for the youth to hear from you that what are the wishes that you had known before?
Nina, I don't know, like, you follow me on my Facebook or not. Today I posted something very interesting. Maybe like a lot of people here, maybe bikers like me. So I had a big biking dream, Nina, and to earn well and to settle well, etc., etc. My big bad bike journey started 7 years back, and I was just calculating in 2021, I crossed 100,000 miles. riding my motorbike.
Oh, wow.
And you know why I was able to do this? I was able to do this because I had a dream. I had a dream. I had a dream to have the best of the bikes. I had a dream to travel India. I had a dream to serve when I am actually on my motorbike. Reaching out to the schools, teaching them certain things which are purpose led, spending time with the kids, working on the art, culture, music, and other things which are very close to my heart. As I have been supporting the Jaipur Literature Festival from over 7 years now. So there are certain things which really which make me think after your question, the things which I would have done early, or what I regret, or something like that. Definitely, if I would have got mentors like Ashish when I was young, I would have been a very different person. Or if I would have mentors like Sahil, who is in mid 30s, or Komal, who is in mid 30s, or Dr. Josna, who is in mid 30s, or other people like Saddam, who are in mid 30s, or Trishita, who is one of the managers in our Northeastern project, and Dogan and others, if I would have met these kind of guys early, I would have been a very different person. Different in terms of one thing which I learned from all of, there is one trait which is there in all of this, how glued these guys are with the communities. They think with heart, they think with brains, and I was the one who was largely thinking with brain only. Heart came very lately to me. That too, by the right coaching and the right mentoring, which I got from the various people. One of the person, like, he's no more, like my ex boss when I was working with the Clinton, Doctor, the head of our department. So and then definitely our current CEO, Lakshman Narasimhan. When I was in London when the farewell of the ex-CEO was happening, and he told me, like, Ravi, India is a huge country. Dettol is a big brand. You are doing so much on Dettol. India also has a lot of binary population, which is LGBTQI plus populations. Are you thinking something for them? Do you have some plans to do something for them? I started thinking then. So my journey with brain and heart started for the purpose programming actually 10 years back. And good 7 years I have spent with the Reckitt now. And fortunately, I met very good teams. And Nina, one thing, but I have really changed it after looking into the profiling of all these guys I was referring to. I have changed the median age of the project leaders. Now the youth are in the leadership position. I also want them to, like, people talk about women breaking the silos, women breaking the ceilings. I also want youth to break the ceilings. When I say why you need a 20-year of work for certain things, if you have the skill set, if you have the mindset, if you have the traits, can't we take the risks? I have taken the risks and I have succeeded. Honestly saying, Nina, I have zero failures in last 10 years while selecting the youth for the leadership positions. And everyone has done so well. And they have motivation to learn. Some of them have gone to Wharton, some of them have gone to Princeton, some of them have gone to London Business School, some of them are doing the courses from the MIT. I don't need to push them to learn. The learning curve is very steep. That motivates me and makes me also feel like I need to keep pace with them. I wish a decade back or 2 decades back I met all these guys and I would have been, a better person. But nevertheless, I see glass half full. So these guys are my, trusted partners in my journey. And when I say trusted partners, it's very real trust. And someone says me, like, what's the mantra of success? And mantra of success is youth, and mantra of success is trust. And building trust and earning the currency of trust is very, very difficult. I have also earned the currency of trust, and they have also earned the currency of trust. So when you do very delicate programs in a country like ours, it becomes very, very important. Like, you work with the pulse, what's happening on the ground. I don't like dinosaurs running the programs which are meant for youth. Nevertheless, there are mentors which are always required, like me. But we all have to phase out. And this new youth brigade has to take the roles what we had. Nina, in my first of the early roles, like my first job, I remember I had 300
Mm-hmm.
plus community based organizations whom I nurtured, developed, and still like they are my journey partners till now.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a time people used to say, Ravi, you are so young when I joined, and my whole technical support unit of the World Bank, the median age was 45. When I joined, they said, "Bacche ne join kar liya hai program." I just came out of the college, and when they came to know, like, I am not a program officer, I am the technical support unit World Bank head. So when they came to know like I will be wearing that hat, there were a lot of questions and inhibitions. I performed well, my team supported me, but initial resistance was there. So breaking the silos and making the friendships is also very important to win.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ravi. I could go on talking to you till the cows come home, but a few words that have stuck with me and they resonate with me tremendously. It's trust. Your network is your net worth. I really believe that, and I think mindfulness and mindful leadership, leading from the heart. And there's so much to learn from the youth, really, honestly. And I think we could have a separate conversation on being part of Ashish's fan club, and I continue to learn from him every single day. And thank you so much for being part of this, Ravi. And we're going to hop on to our first panel of the day.
Thank you, Ravi sir. Just wanted to thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nina, over to
And
you.
so now for our first panel of the day. Today's panel is about how multi-stakeholder partnership is a prerequisite to promote young India's sexual and reproductive health and rights. And I'm going to hand the mic over to your capable hands, Ashish. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Nina. It was a real pleasure listening to Ravi sir, and I'm glad we could get that time to have that candid conversation, which was not part of the agenda. But thank you so much, Ravi sir, for staying longer and sharing some of these things, because I feel like when I get chance to meet with you, we do get a chance. But now, so many other young people who are watching us would be able to learn from your experience and some of your journeys. And thanks a lot for those very, very encouraging and kind words. So, talking about the first big panel of Break the Wall is on talking about multi-stakeholder partnership, which is very important to the work that we do at MASH. And how can we get different stakeholders together in creating a stronger ecosystem which advances and promotes the work on their sexual and reproductive health. We have a very, very interesting mix of a panelist. Uh, you know, but I'll set some more context on why we are doing these. Because these stakeholders, shape up some of these programs. There are policymakers who design policies. There are funding organizations who fund such initiatives. But sometimes we feel like young people are not made part of this conversation in this process. So next 1 hour, we'll be having some of these interesting discussions, learning from everybody's experiences, where we see some of these gaps to be filled, and how can young people be made more inclusive part of designing of some of these programs. So today's panelist, we have first Medha Gandhi, who's from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Medha comes for over 2 decades of experience. Her work ranging from implementing large-scale programs at community level to advocacy and prioritizing sexual and reproductive health in India. And she has also worked very closely with the policymakers and has been prioritizing skilled attendance at the birth and has been deeply engaged in strengthening the nursing and the midwifery in India. Thank you, Medha. We welcome you. Then we have Nayan Chakravarti, who is the chief of party for USAID's Momentum Country and Global Leadership, the India Yash program, which is implemented by the JPIGO. He was the regional director earlier of advocacy with Pathfinder, and again someone who comes with over 2 decades of experience working in different regions ranging from Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, again in different roles and different and wore different hats in prioritizing the work on health and wellness. Next, we have Ms. Trishuta Sut, who is the project leader of the Birds in the Beestock program, which is powered by Durex, and she's from Plan International, who's implementing in this northeastern state. She's somebody who's again has is a young person herself and has worked extensively in the communities of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, and in the field of WASH, public health, and now of sexual and reproductive of health. So thanks, Rishita, for joining us. Then we have Harpreet Baga, who is a senior director at Purpose India, and she's been leading the India office of Purpose for the last 14, 50 years of work spanning across business strategy, corporate finance, nonprofit management. She's held various roles in different organizations like Dasra, like PwC, KPMG. So very grateful to have Harpreet and also Purpose supporting Break the Wall. And we'll be doing different things with Purpose over the next few days. So thanks, Harpreet, for joining us. And last but not the least, very special panelist is Lulu Malang, who's joining us from Northeast and is a young representing who's representing the voice of young people on the panel today. Uh, he's is a trans man who's been living with HIV and AIDS. He's has a few years of work experience working with young people who are suffering from HIV and AIDS, and especially focusing the work with LGBTQI community. He loves listening to music and is somebody who's always looking for some great inspiration and motivation to kind of create some amazing works in using different creative art forms to do that. So thank you, Lulu, for joining us. And thanks to all the panelists for joining us today. So I'll start today's discussion with a very simple opening because it'll be very interesting for our young audience who's watching us today to know a little bit about your work. Some of you comes from very large organizations, and when I was stepping in the sector, some of these names sound very awe-inspiring, but at the same time, I would like to understand what goes on a day-to-day basis and what are the some of the works that you do when it comes to sexual and reproductive health of young people. So I would like to start with Medha from you from the Gates Foundation. What kind of work that are being done around family planning, around health and wellness, and especially focusing on youth?
Thanks, Ashish. In typical online pattern, just want to make sure that you all can hear me clearly. So, first of all, let me congratulate you for pulling together such an interesting forum. And I think the next few days are going to be very interesting and participatory. I'm learning the value and opportunities that the digital space offers, and I think this will be yet another where we would love to hear from you about the engagement that you have with people and how's the interaction as we go forward. In terms of how the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation looks at prioritizing sexual and reproductive health. Looking at the whole family health portfolio is an important priority at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and in the India Country Office. So we look at maternal health, newborn health, family planning, nutrition, and look at how these three how they come together to be able to provide a wholesome experience for girls and women and their family. And within that space, we also look at adolescents from a gender and social norms perspective, looking at women's employability. So there's a whole range of programs that we have which cut across at various levels to be able to reach girls and women and their families and improve the overall quality of life. With specific reference to young people, we don't have a separate vertical of engagement for young people. And I sometimes think that's a useful thing to have. It is challenging also when you want to do something which is very specifically for young people. But I feel that if you've got it integrated across various programmatic areas, then you're able to reach diverse population groups. I will take family planning, for example. If you look at service delivery and the focus that there is on, say, reversible contraception right now with the introduction of newer methods in the public sector and also the private sector providing for a wide range of reversible contraceptives, it is the zero parity and one parity women and couples who do not have any children, or who have one or two children, to be able to respond to their unmet need for family planning. If you're looking at maternal health services, making sure that you're providing quality of care to younger couples. So from that point of view, yes, there are ways and means of doing that, but like I said, that, it's not like a separate thing. For our work on adolescent health, there are specific strategies that we have around working on addressing issues like child marriage, employability, women in the workforce. So there are those sort of interventions too. I will talk a little about one specific intervention, just to give you an example of our engagement with young people. This is a scope of work that we have with Dasra, trying to group in a large number of younger people, and Harpreet from Purpose was involved in the earlier phase when we were doing the landscaping for this work. So I guess, Harpreet, you end up getting involved, touching base with everybody in some way. So the purpose of that intervention is to build a 1 million strong coalition of young people across cities, and building a national coalition where you're hearing from and of the issues of young people around the quality of life framing. And when you see what is the definition of quality of life, this is something that we would love for young people to define within the SRH framing. So contraception, of course, would be an important aspect of it because it has an implication on the life course that people take. But looking at other dimensions also, and hoping how this can get defined. So this work has just recently kicked off, and we're also in deep conversations with Nayan and his team to look at how there can be collaborations on that front. So the intention is to be as collaborative and as inclusive as possible. And I'm really glad that Trisha and Lulu are also here on this forum, and love to hear from them how we can make sure that these interventions are inclusive, are representative of the voice of young people, across different geographies, across different thought processes, across different educational and socioeconomic background, so that we're able to get a coherent voice, such that there are platforms that are created where young people are able to share their views and are able to contribute to policy making processes with their inputs. And as Ravi was mentioning, it's not just about um, looking at data and saying, okay, here is what young people want, creating a place at the table for an adequate voice, where young people are representative of themselves. I guess I will pause there and hand it back to you, Ashish.
Sure. No, thank you so much, Meda. I think you've highlighted some very interesting topics in terms of how we can uh, build more inclusive spaces. And while the programs are being designed, it must include the voices of these young people. We have so much to cover, so I'll quickly go to Nayan and would like to hear from Nayan. What's the kind of work is being done in Asian? And I was part of the launch program and the event of Yash. So there's a lot of exciting work that's being planned out. So would love to hear from you. Yeah.
Thanks, Ashish. I hope you can hear me. Uh, so thanks for having me here. And first of all, congratulations to you and MASH for bringing in such a diverse group. So looking forward to hear more interactions moving forward. So I'm representing Momentum Country and Global Leadership Project, which is a USAID supported project, and Japigo is the global lead on this. So this project is all about young people and the well-being of young people. So the age group that we are looking at is 10 to 29 years. Uh, and this is being implemented across five states in India, which are also the USAID supported states, which are Assam, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Madhya Pradesh. So here, as part of this project, we are looking at both demand and supply side intervention. So in the demand side, we'll be working closely with the community, with the young people, to build up their agencies, where at the supply side, where it is working closely with the service provider. And when I say service provider, it's both from the public as well as private. And So as we are moving forward, so there are very interesting interventions which are getting shaped up. Already there are a list of around 14 different interventions, which are very, very multisectorial, very diverse, and very, very innovative. Uh, just to give a kind of a flavor of the kind of the interventions that we are looking forward. So the first one which comes to my mind is the dignity of care. We know that there are biases which sometimes the service providers are even not aware of, and that prohibits a lot of the sexual and reproductive health services reaching out to the clients, reaching out to the young people. So how do we? So we are working with a behavioral lab where we are trying to look at what are those biases, identify them, and come up with potential ways, potential nudges to address some of these biases. Then we have a road ahead. We have a very strong case to kind of advocate and replicate those learnings to other places as well. And this is something that we are trying out both in public space as well as with the private providers in the state of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. The next project which comes to my mind is the gender-based violence, where it's another, again, very interesting project. We are working with the Department of Police and Social Welfare in the state of Assam. And so there are already special cells which are part of the police stations where if there are any case of gender-based violence, that gets reported. But as we started off, we realized that the issues, the kind of cases which are getting reported at the police station, so these are almost at the extreme form of violence, right? So these are medical legal kind of cases. But again, gender-based violence is so much, we know that it's so much ingrained within the family, within the society. We need to do much beyond than working with that segment of the society, that segment of the population, which are more at the severe form of violence, gender-based violence. So we started working with another organization more at the community level, and this project is across 11 districts in Assam, where we are trying to understand, identify gender-based violence right there at the community level, and hopefully address some of the issues that's coming up. So that's, again, what is important to know here and to note here is it is very, very multisectoral in approach, and which is trying to bring in the strength from the public as well as the private. Another very interesting project which we are just in the process of shaping up, I'll give that example very quickly. And we know that when it comes to access to information, access to services, access to products, I'm talking about the SRH products and services. So there are limitations in terms of affordability. Affordability. So because of the lack of affordability, sometimes those services or those products access is also very, very challenging. So what we are looking forward is to look at e-rupee, which is an alternate payment mechanism, and come up with much more innovative way if some of the affordability issue that some of our young people that they are facing while it comes to accessing services or products, that can be addressed. Maybe I'll pause there and I'll take it further.
Oh, I think that's a lot. Yeah, it was just affordability, market access. These are some of the very important things when it comes to accessing healthcare services. So I'll come to Harpreet, and then we'll like to hear from Trishta and Lulu. In terms of purpose works across issues, and we've had a chance to work with purpose. We are working on some of the interesting programs. So tell us a little bit more about your day life in purpose and the kind of work that's being done, focusing on youth, focusing on their sexual and reproductive health.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ashish, and it's wonderful to be part of this panel. And like everybody else said, such a great forum that you're creating over the next few days to really propel this conversation around SRH and young people, which is just so important. So just as a quick intro, Purpose essentially builds and supports people-powered movements across social issues, as you mentioned. And SRH is one of our largest pillars of work, but we do a lot of work in climate change and other public health issues. And young people has come across as such an important theme just because of the demographic dividend in India. And so is actually an intersectionality that cuts across all of the issue areas and work we do. And as part of our work, we have been creating youth collectives, working on narrative and perception change across issues. But for today's purposes, if I just focused on the SRH element of our work, it's really been around building, I'm going to say, a young people's movement to get engaged and participate um, and in SRH, which it sounds a bit funny because you're like, young people, SRH should be impacting them today, tomorrow, in the future. Isn't that a non-claim? But actually, we realize through our work that there's just so many things to be done. First and foremost is really narrative and perception change, that young people have to want to engage in SRH. What does it really mean to our well-being? Does it matter? Is it relatable? Family planning has been often used as a word, or contraception, but do we really engage with that? Is that where young people are today? How does it relate with those priorities? What are the taboos on even being able to talk about this? So I think that one core element of our work is really just working on narrative and perception change and reframing almost how SRH is spoken to, so it's relatable and something young people can engage in. Second is really building platforms for young people to engage in the topic, and that may be in policy making. Young people actually have little representation, although it's increasing on the policy making space, even in the industry space as consumers of the products and services. I think it's a really important place for young people to have the platforms to speak to it. That related to that is helping push the demand for what are the kinds of product or services that young people today need and want. And so really identifying that, surfacing the voices of young people from across the country to be able to build for that. And then the final piece is really the quality and dignity of care, especially in the health services that young people are getting. It's been a less talked about topic, but I think the dignity of healthcare services, even today, that's spoken about, requires it's not just narrative change, it's systems change as we gear to make this whole ecosystem supportive to young people. And so it's really working around that whole piece. As Medha mentioned, we worked very closely with the Melinda Gates Foundation last year. We're currently working very closely with MCGL project, also in building youth movement. And we've also been doing other work in other regions, supported by other foundations, particularly around the dignity of care. And through our work, it's been not just working with young people. I think for us, the core element is for them to be participants and leaders in what we do. And so it's working with the young people, but the entire ecosystem around their family and friends, the social media platforms they might be on, the community groups they are part of, colleges, radio, media, the nonprofits, the government. So really working across that chain. But yeah, I'll stop there, Ashish. But
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this panel. Everybody's doing so exciting work. I feel like we maybe run out of the time. That's my only concern. So thanks, Harpreet, for sharing. I'll quickly go to Trishita now, and let's hear from what they're doing in Northeast through Birds in the Bees Talk. Yeah.
Hello, hi Asish. I hope everyone is audible. Can hear me. Good evening. I'm so happy to be a part of this panel and among these esteemed speakers. I'll just go directly to our project. So I am working with the Birds and the Beestock project from Plan International. The TBBT aims to transform the lives of 2 million adolescents in 6 Northeast states of Nagaland, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Sikkim, and Arunachal. We address key topics like making informed choices, feeling safe sex, consent, dating, violence, self-esteem, peer pressure, substance abuse, gender diversity, equity, and internet safety. I think we all believe that the most chaotic period of a person's life is the teenager, unable to grasp the changes that's happening in our body, whether it's physical, emotional, intellectual, or sexual. They usually, they try out, they go out to experiment, or they just hide themselves inside. So in this project TBBT, we understand that, and we are working towards creating an ecosystem where these young kids can freely express themselves in the right way. Also, we are presently working with multiple stakeholders in all the 6 states, trying to take this program to every child. We have MOU signed with all the state governments and have built up strong relationship with the government departments like the education, social welfare, health, and youth and sports affair, etc. Also, whether it is the state or the district level, we have tried and actually made an impact on the ground level. So, and also we have partnered up with different state level organizations also. Yeah, all is one of our very very closely an organization with whom we closely work with, and extensively on the ground. I am very very fortunate today that Mr. Lulu, who's has helped us in our quest to reach out to the adolescents of the Northeast. He's always been a part with us, and he's helped us to reach out to our masses and spread our message towards it, and spreading the message of healthier life and healthier people. And there are also other organizations in different states that we are presently working with and do events with, like Girl Up Manipur, Ojo Mission Arunachal Pradesh, Youth Net Nagaland, the Young Mizo Association Mizoram are just a few examples, and it just goes on. So we are building up our network and our stakeholders. We have a large group of stakeholders with whom we work with directly. We are also promoting and support the first transgender football team from Manipur. We have organized friendly matches from time to time. We keep on organizing friendly matches, and we have supported and promoted them too. In during the World AIDS Day in December, we also had a special Outlook edition which talks about SRH, and these issues were very widely distributed in the Northeast states. And we have these issues can be found in the community libraries, school libraries, and book cafes and bookshops. So it has been this Outlook issues also has impacted the whole stakeholder system. When we went to schools with these Outlook issues, they were really impressed with it, and they could get to know more about things that were never talked about in open earlier. Also, we have a very very popular, which is very slowly it's getting very popular, and the schools are appreciating it. We have a mental health helpline for adolescents, which is called the Talking Birds. There are trained and qualified counselors who answer to the distressed teenagers. And I'm really happy and proud really to announce that this whole thing, this whole mental health helpline has really been a very good initiative from the TBBT side. And here only I can give you an example what happened, like in one of our school visits that we did. We were just giving an introduction about the mental health, and I think the principal of that particular school, he just came up, and when the moment he heard that there's a mental health helpline, he was so interested about it. And he came up and he asked me, is it like is it for students, can they do it, and what is it? And he grabbed the mic from me, and he was the one speaking about the whole whole helpline. So that this kind of things seeing on the ground, it really the impact that is being done on ground level, especially on topics that are not spoken about. These are topics that are on sex, on feelings, on menstruation. All these are not things that we openly talk about, but the response that we get from the stakeholders, from our beneficiaries, have been really great. And yes, these are few of the initiatives that we have taken on ground. Yeah.
Very
Yes.
inspiring, Trishita. Thank you, and congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your work. And 2 million is not a small number, and I'm hope like you continue to work in creating and impacting many more young people. So thanks, and now I'll come to Lulu, and I think very excited and looking forward to hear from Lulu and learn about all the great work, Lulu, that you've been doing in your regions and communities. So over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Uh, it's a great opportunity for me to be here in this panel discussion. But firstly, I like to go with a little bit about myself. From the childhood, I participated and worked with young people HIV, young people living with HIV, and I used to work as a secretary for a support group under the MNP Plus. So, and some of the work is advocacy and capacity building on gender and sexuality with adolescents and youth from different communities. And also, we are using the sport as a space, as safe space. We are there is a transgender football team, as Tesla mentioned. Yeah, that's all.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Lulu, and thanks again for joining us. So I'll go to the big theme of the today's panel discussion is that how can we make stronger partnership and how can we make these program design more inclusive as we go in designing some of these programs. And we do have a very interesting mix. For some reason, we couldn't get a policy maker given it was a shortage of time. But Dr. Zoya from the National Health Mission did express her. Um, she did express her best wishes for everybody, but then she said in the future program she will be definitely joining us. So we will definitely like to engage with more policymakers and government stakeholders as well. So my first question to the panel, and since we don't have a lot of time, so I'll also request everybody to keep it short, is in terms of what are the challenges that you experiences while you design the programs or your interventions. And to Trishita and Lulu, I'll come with the same question in terms of where do you see the gap or where do you see a more engagement in terms of design of the programs and the programs are being designed because you've been on the implementation side of it mostly in your communities, right? So where do you see that gap and what message or what request would you have to our panelists and of course a lot of audiences who are listening, which includes a lot of important stakeholders including policymakers in terms of when these programs are designed for the young people. So I'd like to start, let's say, Medha, let's start with you for this one.
Sure, Ashish, thanks. I'd first like to say thank you to Trishita for sharing those very insightful findings from your engagement strategies from your work. Ashish, that's a very good question. And I think that's the whole point of thinking through of youth-led engagement. And as I was mentioning, one of the interventions that we are currently looking at, the whole purpose of designing that was to make sure that we're hearing from young people and designing it from that point of view. And the work that Purpose had done for us was to bring together voices of young people, young people's representatives, and also pull together some quant and quali insights to be able to say how we structure. So there was a thought in our mind. And from speaking as a representative from a donor organization. See, we are custodians as program officers in a funding organization. We're custodians of the monies that are allocated towards certain program outcomes. So we have to look at it from the point of view of making sure that there are some tangible outcomes. So we have to look at it from thinking through of those steps, but how do we make it intentional in a way that the outcomes are meaningful for the people that we expect, the communities that we aim to serve? And that's why we spent about a year trying to understand young people's perspectives, how would they want these programs to be, and trying to keep pace with the way that they would want the engagement. What part of it should be online, what part of it should be in person, how can we create collaboration, how do we bring policymakers on board, how do we look at opportunities for cross learning, being representative, looking at international, national engagement. So a series of those such processes have been thought through, and it's an ongoing learning process. And the second thing, and I will pause after that, is to look at opportunities for collaboration and engagement. So between USAID and us. We've been in conversations to see how the two coalitions can possibly have touch points so that they can be building off each other. When you reached out to us, we were looking at how we can introduce you to other groups that are working in this space so that there is more conversation and engagement, and also in touch with colleagues who are working in different countries to be able to create those introductions so that there is more engagement of young people and sharing across boundaries. I'll pause there.
Thank you. Thanks, Meda. I'll go to Nayan now with the same question.
Thanks, Ashish. And I think it's a very important question. And I'll just take forward what where Meda left. I think having this kind of forum where the youths are at the center, but these are more kind of, I would still say these are more exceptions. We are making a lot of progress in that area, but still we get to see programs where youth are not at the epicenter of it. I think that becomes very, very important. There should not be any program of youth which are youth program where youths are not leading it, where youths are not part of it. So no youth program without youth. I think that's the first thing. Second is, I think what's very important is how much we are learning from the evidences that's getting generated. And I'll just give one example, and that is from the NFHS 5 data. So, and this is something that which this evidence was already there in the space, and NFHS 5 data only substantiate it even further, that there is a positive inverse correlationship between women, those who are completing their secondary education, with declining child marriage as well as teenage pregnancy. So keeping girls at school, that itself, it's a good thing, when it comes to increasing the age of marriage or reducing the teenage pregnancy, right? So which actually talks about how important it is to look at the cross, to look at it from multi-sectorial approach and to look at it from the diverse sets. So these are the data which are already there, and how do we use those data in terms of designing our programs? That works makes it even more essential. Maybe I'll pause there for the interest of time.
Sorry, thanks, Nayan. Harpreet, same question to you now.
Great. I agree fully with everything that Meda and Nayan have said. And I think to that, I would just add, I think that with youth being at the leaders and really being leading it and not just participants is definitely the biggest piece. And I think for me, the underlying principle to that is meet them where they are. I think we shouldn't be preaching to young people. It's for us to support young people to say what they want, how they want it. And really in being able to do that, meet them where they are, where are their priorities, where do they see their quality of life and life aspirations. That's the only way that we will make sure that narratives are not exclusionary or unrelatable. I think we need to move out of that hum do hamare do, which I think is phasing, but that's just, I think, an important piece. And aspects of that might be sitting in pop culture and other places. And so even as we look at multi-stakeholder collaboration, I think it's really important to look at where young people are in their daily lives, where they're getting the information, who they're speaking to, and how does that ecosystem sectoral collaboration involve all of those sources. And a lot of them will be the informal networks, the peers and the friends. And how do we even bring them into the conversation? Otherwise, often it becomes young people, development sector professionals, policymakers, but even that may not be enough. So I think definitely building on the collaboration point and building there. And final piece is young people are really a heterogeneous group. Young people in itself is that large, and for us to be inclusive needs a lot of intentionality, a lot of stakeholders, and we mustn't forget gender and LGBTQI, as well as different, income, education, location, etc., etc. I think those are all really important pieces that we need to think about as we build it.
Perfect. You touched upon so many important things, Harpreet. So thank you. I'll come to now Trishita and Lulu in understanding how do you being on the other side, while you designing and implementing the programs. So where do you see there should be a more greater participation of youth, and how do you what are your expectations from these stakeholders when designing these programs? Yeah, Trishita, first I'll
Uh,
go come to you.
Yes. So Ashish, I think the biggest problem for as a project we faced was to take this SRH topic and speak it out for to our stakeholders, because initially when we went and talked about sex, that was the first thing that there was resistance and there was inhibition to let this project uh, operate in a school, or even talking to parents. How do you go and talk to parents about things like this? But gradually, I think after the efforts the state teams have made, so we have made a pathway, and we have built that gap where they are also now appreciating. Even parents also, they agree that this is a very important topics that we should deal on. And also, yes, there has been few uh, I won't say technically, but yes, it was difficult because of the time, with COVID and all. It was difficult for us to work, because we had to manage between doing it on a digital. We had to do it on a digital space, so which was a difficult thing in the Northeast, regarding the network connectivity and roadways. There's a lot of this logistic issues that we faced, which but now we are, because we have build up that, I think I would say, that relationship with our stakeholders. So they are also supporting us very openly. So it is much smoother to work now, even with all the constraints of COVID and logistically and all. So even the government stakeholders, they are very openly, they are accepting the project and they help us in every way. And also, yes, because we had one slight problem, that there are many local languages present in the Northeast. So especially if you go from Manipur, there's a different language, and in Mizoram, there's a Mizo, and then no Meitei in Manipur, Mizo in Mizoram. In Nagaland, they speak Nagamese, and in Sikkim, they are all Nepali. They speak in Nepali. So the problem was that our project was initially in English, so it was difficult to get through the teachers and parents to make them understand our curriculum. But even now, we have come up with multilingual. Our curriculum are multilingual now, so that it is easier for us to reach to our beneficiaries and stakeholders. So yes, we are facing some issues, but thanks to my my seniors, my leaders in Plan International, in Record Board, who have supported us so well to make this journey a smoother one. So yes, hoping in the future that we will do more great things.
Great, perfect. I think in a
Thank
very
you.
short span, you've already been doing some amazing work. So,
Thank
Lulu,
you.
I'll come to you now. And what are your expectations when you implement these programs? What do you think could be done better?
Firstly, I like to talk about the gaps first, shortly. Then, number one is, the first one is lack of youth in queer informative
Your
service.
voice is not very clear. If you can come closer to the microphone.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
The first one I like to bring up is the lack of youth and queer affirmative service providers. Like from the side of service providers, like our KSK program, the program is implemented but not reached to us as a youth. In Manipur, that is a part of Northeast, right? Northeast region. The government school where got the trainings, and there are no teachers and students at the government schools, you know. And from the society sides, sexual health and reproductive health is a taboo in Manipur. We didn't talk about this. We were shy. If we are shy about talking about these things, and also about the mental health is also a taboo. When someone is talking about his mental health, his or her mental health is the society is ready to judge. That's all. He or she is afraid or shy to share that issues with others. And programs are not included in any regions, as it is made up of a diverse community, as any is. And the expectation is, while talking about sustainable development, out of the 7 sustainable development goals, the number 7 talks about the collaboration and partnerships. We are looking forward to working with funders, donors, and policymakers like you guys. And number 2 that I want to bring up is support group for child and adults are there, but there is no support group for adolescent and youth, like YPLHIV, young people with HIV. Not formally, but there is a support group for young PLHIV, YPLHIV led by me at that level. So unfortunately, we didn't get any support for this support group, rather than YAWO so far now. So we critically need hand holdings and resources to sustain it right now. And adolescent-friendly clinic run by government were also there, but not functioning properly. Based on the RKS model, we all are creating a model inclusive space to provide information and well-being service on health and well-being. We create this space without any support through crowdfunding. Parents needs to advocate about sexual health and reproductive health and also mental health continuously more and more, so that we can bring a change, I think. And lastly, but not the least, when there is a COVID-19 emergency, we were helpless. The last 2 years, first wave and second wave, there is a lot of challenging. Like as I work with PLHIV, so these are the issues that I face for regarding their accessing medicine counseling during the pandemic. So I work at frontline and coordinate with them to help with their medication counseling to their needs and other needs also. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Sorry, that's some very inspiring work, Lulu, that you've already done, and with very limited support, I would say. So, really, hats off to all the great work. And I think people like you are an inspiration for many, many, many young people. So, I think the ones who are watching to you would love to learn more from your stories like these. So, thanks again for sharing. Since we are also getting closer towards, wrapping up very soon, so we have about another 10 to 15 minutes. So I would like this to be also like each panelist to throw some light, since it's the beginning of the year, it's a National Youth Day, it's a great time to have these conversations. So what are some of the big priorities for 2022? And with we don't know how things are shaping up, things seems to be getting better in the last few days, and kind of we're back into our homes, so we don't really know, right? So with the changing scenarios of COVID, right, how do you also see some of these programs evolving, right? The kind of programs, campaigns, each one of the work that we are doing. So if you can throw some light, what are your priorities for this year? How do you see being resilient with the changing scenario, and your closing remarks and messages for our young audience? So if you can compile these things, three things together in then about 2 to 3 minutes with each panelist, I think we should be able to close our panel in time. So now we can go in a different order. Anybody who would like to start first can go, or however we'd like to do it. Uh, if anybody wants to volunteer to start first, can start as well. Or should we go with Harpreet, you first? If you're ready. Sorry to put you on spot.
I don't know why I had a feeling you'd pick on me. So 2022, I think, continues to be a year of a lot of flexibility and adaptability. If you look from our perspective in terms of uh, the work we do, the way we do work, and the way we engage. I think the biggest concern with this continuing COVID wave is obviously COVID health and the waves, but also the steps back that COVID has sort of it's put us back quite a few steps if we look in the SRH space. In terms of so many gender issues, the child marriage data, is not great. Gender-based violence, again, things have increased. Full information not known. Livelihoods, income is a very big concern. I think that is the topmost concern for young people about them and their futures. And so as we need to work, and I think that's a reality for 2022, whether the waves continue or not, and really being able to adapt to that and adapt to where young people's priorities are. SRH in many ways remains very critical as an area, but it kind of falls lower down the priority list when you have so many burning priorities. And I think there's a big onus on us to see how we can continue to support that. Second, I think it's being very mindful that we can be inclusive. It's a lot harder to be inclusive while we have the privilege of sitting in our rooms and having this conversation. That's not a privilege for everyone, and sometimes does mean that who we're able to reach out and talk to, who informs our perspectives, changes, and that can create biases. So I think being very mindful on how we can continue to be fully inclusive. But on the other hand, there is a silver lining. I think digital penetration has increased, digital access has increased. We are able to have forums like this. We've had great success in being able to engage with young people in rural parts of the country using digital means, WhatsApp, Zoom calls, and these kind of thing. So in many ways, it's given us access that we couldn't easily travel to, but much quicker communication. So really, how do we use those tools to those benefits? And I think 2022 is really about how do we cement what we've learned and not forget. There are a lot of benefits in our ways of working that have also come through, like the resilience you mentioned. And we shouldn't lose that. And how do we have the best of both sides of the coin? So I think that will remain top priorities. In terms of closing remarks and messages, I think for all the young people listening, don't wait. This is your time. Participate. It's so amazing that forums like this are now being created more and more. And let's talk, open up the conversation, find the safe spaces, find that, those support systems. The more we talk about it, the more we'll find solutions and we'll be working in the right direction.
Absolutely. Couldn't be a better way to say don't wait, and especially young people do not like to wait. So yeah, thank you, Harpreet. Nen would like to come to you next. Yeah.
Thanks, Ashish. And I'll just build on what Harpreet was telling. And I think, so in terms of, yes, it's a difficult time for all of us. So the way we have been delivering programs, I think that also needs to be adapted. So a lot of the work that we are doing, which are ongoing, so that needs an adoption. When I say adoption, so I think few areas which we are always mindful of, but I think that become even more important right now. Harpreet talked about inclusiveness. Yes, we know that it's going to be even more challenge. Taking it forward, so representation, so we know that even if we are talking about youth participation, but are we talking about youth participation from those unheard communities as well? So it's not visible. It's not very easy to kind of reach out to those sets of youths where their voices are less heard. So how do you design programs where those voices are get captured and that becomes the center stage of the discussion? I think those are the areas which still are challenges, and these are the people those who do not have the luxury, of course, to sit in this kind of room, and also many of them do not have connection to internet. They don't know that this program is happening. How do you reach out to them? How do you take this program forward to them? I think those are a kind of the challenges that we have to navigate through. Of course, I think creating more and more platforms, that goes without saying, where in the most ideal situation is young people, they are aware of their rights, they are aware of their their needs. They come and demand for services, and there is a sensitive system, there is a responsive system which actually delivers on the needs and the aspirations of the young people. I think that's an ideal world that we would like to see. It's happening, but it needs to happen much more. It needs to happen more frequently and more across the spectrum. My closing remarks, I think all young people right there, I would say that it's your world as much as it's our world. So it's your world as well. One of the youngest country, very big in number. Don't wait for your chance. If it is not coming your way, ask for it, demand for it. So I'll end with the line. Actually, it's a book. I think it was written by Amitabh Bakshi. And he said that the title of the book I remember is Go and Kiss the World. So it's your world, go and kiss the world.
Very nice. Don't wait, or you can go chase it or create it. There are so many interesting opportunities that are creating, and young people are innovating in a such creative manners, right? So in fact, one of the days at the Break the Wall, we are celebrating all about innovations that are young people creating, and how can we create more spaces which promotes such ideas and create an enabling ecosystem for those as well. Awesome. So thanks, Nayan. I'll come to you, Medha, and then with Trishita and Lulu, I'll wrap up. Yeah.
Thanks. Building off what Harpreet and Nayan was saying, and also picking from some of the comments that I was reading on the chat, Srishti on the chat has mentioned that we've come a long way, and she's talked about awareness and progress. And I'd just love to build on that. Young people have the information, they have their way and means of finding the information. So it's not really for us to just be providing information, it's really about meaningful engagement. And I think COVID has shown the role that young people have played, cutting across bureaucracy, supporting people in their communities in making services available. So really this thing of, oh, young people can only think about themselves, and the kind of silos that are created and the barriers that are created, I think a lot of those questions have been, those walls have been broken. And in terms of looking at the structure of the primary healthcare system, the support that has been provided, the way services have been provided, I think there is a lot that can be done on trust building, as we have already seen. And I think we need to continue to build on that momentum and leverage opportunities where we have, as Lulu said, create platforms for young people to come forward and have a non-judgmental environment to be able to do things, to be able to contribute. So clearly agreeing with you, Sakshi, the time for looking at just providing information and awareness is gone. The time for action is here. And it's really what we can do is create those platforms for young people to come forward and take a proactive role. And we're very happy to see that bloom and grow in the times to come. Over to you, Ashish.
I think those are the kind of words where we say that, yes, young people want to need those platforms, and they also, on the other side, get the right kind of support. It's there, right? So thank you, Medha. Trishita, to you now. What's your big goals for 2022, the kind of work that you're doing, and tell us something about how are you, coping up with the current situation? What's your message? Yeah.
Thank you, Asif. So I think for the biggest goal for my whole team, I mean for our whole team, would be to actually implement the whole project, because like you said, it's really challenging to work in situations when there's a lockdown at any time. And even presently also, last few days back, schools have already started shutting down in all the states. So even though we have a fully digital platform where we train our teachers and also our students, but the biggest challenge is that we work with government schools. So government school teachers are basically, they are in a comfort zone. These things happen this way. How is it possible to be a part of a project when there's no school going on? We don't have time. So I think the biggest challenge we will face this year, and we take it as a something that we will overcome, to break this comfort zone of the teachers, of people who's still thinking that there's a barrier, and there's something which is stopping them from coming out of it. Because since there are opportunities for them available, we are giving them the opportunity. So making them to accept it full heartedly, and be ready with the change that is coming towards them. And like my esteemed panelists have said, we have to break out and try out new options, basically out of the box thinking, and new ways to share our messages, to implement projects, and also yes, definitely to implement the project in a digital platform is one challenge that I am looking forward to, and definitely our whole team is looking forward to. And because eventually, like, what I feel is that these digital platforms have also helped us, because it has helped us to reach out to some areas in northeast are such such places you cannot reach. It takes so many hours to reach. There's no proper roads, and also maybe digitally, if we can reach out to these people, if we can educate them, so that is a very very good way that I would appreciate what technology is. Like, we have the technology to reach out to outreach places now. And yes, I'm looking forward. And with all the difficulties, and with all the sudden lockdowns and restrictions that comes every day in our life, so yeah, we will do that. And as for closing remarks, I would really like, you know for us working in the SRH sector, we should really invest more to educate people, and the youth especially. It's very important for them to understand that you know these things are necessary, and they are curious. Definitely the youths are curious. The most important, the commonly asked question on a growing teenager is, what is sex? And mostly they always goes to a go to someone maybe with these questions. They reach out to to a friend, to a peer, and they do not get the right kind of information. So definitely when platforms like this, webinar platforms, there are so many platforms where we can get a valid information, where we get the right information. So the youths of today should explore more, should uh, go for something that is really like you which the information should be valid to the youth of today. I mean, the valid information should be available to the youth of today. And also, yes, thank you so much for having me here. And this project has been very close to my heart, and I would really thank your Ravi sir for giving me this opportunity to work on a project which is so close to my heart. And also my leaders, also Dr. Komal Goswami. She's been a great mentor, and she's helped the whole project to move ahead, even though in difficult situation like last year, the whole every event, we could not do a single event on ground. So it was very difficult for us to reach out to our stakeholders, to our beneficiaries. The government offices were closed, so even then the support that we got from our leaders was extreme. And that which really motivated and inspired us. Even though there were drawbacks, there were things that led us back, but for from with their continuous support, it was really really inspiring. And I think the whole team would agree with me that yes, we really loved working here. So yeah, we are looking forward to do more great things.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Trishita. The whole spirit and the whole idea is so encouraging and very inspired by your work. So thank you again. And last but not least,
Thank you.
Lulu, what's your big goals for 22, and what's your message for audience?
So mine is to make more partnership with other service providers so that the community members can get their service more smoothly and finely. And for the remark, and for the remark is to those who watching this, my friend, sister, and brother, there is a way to our problems. So let's work together and come together from a different direction. Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Very short, sweet, and to the point. Thank you, Lulu. And thanks to all the panelists. I think it was great having you. And it's a great start to a 5 day, very action packed conversation where we have a lot of different interesting voices, including some of the influencers, young change makers, civil society leaders, and of course, a lot of young people, right? So we really look forward to working with each one of you going ahead. in creating a very inclusive and a more inclusive and a very strong ecosystem which prioritizes young people's sexual and reproductive health again. So thanks a lot. Wish you all a very happy new year and stay safe. We look forward to speaking to you all again very, very soon. Thank you so much. Great. So next we have a very interesting conversation coming up. We have Dr. Anvita Madan with us, who's gonna be talking to us about something which we don't get to talk that often. And for that, I'll request Nina to come back and take the conversation ahead from here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashish. Very, very informative session that just went by right now. And I'm really excited to be having this conversation with Anvita Madan Behel, Dr. Anvita Madan Behel. She's a schoolmate of mine who I actually met after years at a reunion. There you are, Anvita.
Hi.
Well, so glad that your network issues in your laptop got sorted out.
Yeah, the laptop's not working, and I have to say the volume is not the best on this, but I'm going to try and do my best. Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you absolutely. So, for everybody who's joining us, Dr. Anvita Madan Behel is a cross-cultural counselor and a psychosexual and relationship therapist who's joining us all the way from London right now.
Yes.
And like I was mentioning, she's a friend from school who I met after years, and we basically accosted her and asked her so many questions, and that's what Ashish and I were talking about initially, that that we're so misinformed growing up when it comes to matters of sex and sexuality. So hopefully through this conversation, many of the myths around the do's and don'ts of sexuality and your relationship with yourself also, I think, are going to be busted. And Anvita, time with you is always never enough. So I'd like you to just say a few words about what you're doing, and then we can jump right into our first question.
Yeah, thank you. Nina, I can barely hear you, so I know we've prepped for this, so I can answer the questions, but I can barely hear you. I'm going to try the iPhone, but there was a lot of iPods, but it was a lot of echo with it.
Uh-huh.
Let me know if there's an echo.
No, this is perfectly fine. Is that better for you as well?
Yes, it is better for me. Yeah. Okay, great.
Super. So I was saying that time with you is never long enough. So I'd like to jump into our first question right away. So which is, what are the pressures young people experience sexually?
So I think, what has really changed today is I think the pressures around sex and sexuality were always there. And initially it was to do with the taboo about like hiding that you were having sex, not letting anybody know. And people would say, oh, you become dirty or impure. But what has changed is that now that there is more permissibility and younger people are engaging more and more with sex, the taboo around it, it's quite the norm that you would have a sexual experience with your partner before marriage and otherwise. So it's quite the norm. So but because that has happened, it has gone or shifted the other way, where I have a lot of young people coming to me and saying, oh, now, it's date 3, so I should be having sex by now. And I'm like, where's this rule book that says by date 3, you should be having sex? And they're like, no, those are the rules of engagement. By this date, I should be doing this, by this date. And I'm making up date 3. Guys out there, people out there, don't assume now on date 3, you need to have sex. I'm just giving an example of what somebody might say. So I think what's become problematic is that now they feel the pressure that being in a relationship means that they must be sexually engaged. And that is problematic because you don't need to do anything that you don't want to do. But there is a pressure of like, they should be able to engage. And then the pressure of, how well do we do sexually? Initially, it was just fine that you were managing having sex. Now it is like, oh, I need to be the best lover. And this has got to be gender agnostic because the men are feeling the pressure of being the best lovers. Women are feeling the pressure. There's this whole orgasm revolution. Men feel they must get their women to have an orgasm. Women think, how can I not have an orgasm? And what we know is bloody having a penetrative orgasm is so difficult and impossible. So this whole performance anxiety of how well you're performing is an added problem. And I think finally, and we have to think about, like, obviously the safety now that people are more sexually active. What are, is the education of contraception and STIs at par as the sexual engagement? Are we teaching them? Are we exploring that? And finally, what I would like to say about the pressure is also, and I know the panel before was talking about the digital world of sex, so much sexual content and pornography is available online now. What was limited previously, where, pornography was something that you had to really seek, you had to find content somewhere, hide it from your parents, see it at the middle of the night, feel scared somebody would walk into your room while you're watching it. Now it's easily available on your phone or your computers. And sometimes, even when you're not looking at it, it just shows up. I know I've shared this example for you. Once I was doing something with my son, and we were looking, I think, at some 7 inches, 3/4 or something. We were doing, like, he was all of 4 or 5 or something like that. And we put in the number, and all that came up was penis sizes. Apparently, it was the average length of a penis or something like that. And all that came up by putting a number was, average penis sizes, should the penis be bigger, things like that. So they are exposed to sexual content sometimes that they don't even want to be. And it gets really tricky with pornography. And I know we're going to speak more about it, because pornography is not real sex. It's not real life sex. But pornography has changed, is the new sex education tool. So what people are replicating, or what people are bringing into their bedrooms, is what they see in pornography, and that's really unhealthy. So that's another pressure that they are facing.
You're talking about this 3.5, 7.5. I remember many, many years ago when I was in America, and my poor mother was traumatized because she was sitting with my nephew and they typed something, dog something, and there was so much pornography, like some bestiality or something online, and my mother was like, "What do I do, beta?" And it was all there.
And that's what, we really, when we worked with, doing preventative programs, that's what we said to a lot of parents. You really need to start talking about it, because it's not like they're going and seeking pornography. Even without seeking it, those images are so prevalent now that, and the poor child could be looking for anything, like you're saying, like it could be anything. It doesn't need to be like, so yeah, I do think that we need to talk more and discuss more and educate them more about pornography and sexual content, because it's available for them. We can't change that.
So, Amrita, basically, what my understanding is that, ideas of what good sex looks like comes from porn, right? This is the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be focusing on the physicality of it, the act of sex, but it's real fast. But in reality, we know that sex looks different, right? How does one not take porn to your real life? Because somewhere I feel involuntarily one tends to, because you're consuming it. So how do you not take it to your personal life eventually?
So what you're saying is exactly right. Like, if you think about it, initially when we didn't have porn as a stimulus, there might have been romance, there might have been emotional bonding, there might have been expression of emotions through sex, or there might be romantic, or you as in, most people might not have known too much about sex, so it was figuring out what to do with sex, like how to do it, what to do it. You would get a little bit creative with, you have to imagine foreplay and get creative with it. The problem that's happened today is that porn gives you the stimulus, but the porn that is created today, in some ways, and I'm not making it about men, but the reality is that the content, because it's consumed by men, it's made by men for men, and it focuses so much on the physical. It's about it's about the physical act of sex, which they limit to penetrative sex. Like when and how will somebody enter? How long will they enter for the vagina? How long, or the anus? Like it could be anal sex and it could be a gay relationship, but it's like how long will somebody be in? How long are they going to do it? How fast are they going to do it? What positions are they going to do it? But it's limited and focused to that small part. Whereas we know, and we know the more pleasurable part or the better part of sex is actually the foreplay. That's where you build the arousal, that's where you build the relationship, that's where you build the bond between two partners. It's about bringing a woman to arousal, like that part of how are you going to bring somebody to arousal, to finally have penetrative sex. Is totally missed out a lot with pornography. It's so much focused on that small part and the physicality, that people think that's what sex is. And a lot of times they might land up hurting their partners because they are not aroused, they're not wet, they're not lubricated at that time. It might be very painful for their partners. It might not be pleasurable for their partners. It might not be pleasurable for them, because if you're not aroused, if it's just a physical part of it. So sex becomes it becomes very short and it becomes very physical. There's no emotional bonding, there's no relationship building, there's nothing, there's no intimacy in the act. And also, more importantly, what happens is that what we now know with the porn industry is that so much technology and software has come in that a lot what they portray is not real. It just like images that we speak about, Photoshop and everything. Even in pornography, a lot of it is involved with software. And otherwise, or the fact that they would show somebody having or staying erect for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and staying, having penetrative sex for half an hour, 45 minutes, or a very long time. All those things are not real. They have edited it over time. They use different models and different people. The body might be somebody else's, the penis might be somebody else's, the breasts might be somebody else's. There's so much editing happening and so much software involved. So when we see it, young people think, oh, that's how sex is. And that's the definition of what a good lover looks like. That's how good sex happens. And they want to replicate it. And when they can't replicate it, they feel they're not good enough. So it impacts their self-esteem and their performance. But two, they might actually land up hurting themselves or their partner and make the whole experience actually quite unpleasurable. They like it has no pleasure in it. So the shout out would really be, pornography is there to stay, but think about it as a stimulus, think about it as a tool to get aroused, to get something excited, but don't try and replicate it.
But Amrita, and I think this is true across ages, right? Sometimes I think what tends to happen is that people can't even pleasure themselves or masturbate without that stimulus then. How common is that when you're talking to your clients, your patients? How common is that? That you get addicted to pornography, almost like
yeah, so that is, and that's why people a lot of times think, oh, I'm addicted to pornography. People might come in, and this is across ages, might say, oh, I can't get aroused with my partner. I have to see pornography to get aroused because otherwise it doesn't happen. Women might turn around and say, oh, I can't masturbate because I can't watch porn. People have now, political issues around pornography because they think it's so entrenched in trafficking or gender issues and otherwise. That's why the birth of ethical porn is there. So pornography is complex. And people do worry about getting addicted to it or dependent on it and otherwise. And I thought of this great example, and that's what we need to think about. You go and watch a superhero movie, you go and watch Spider-Man, you don't suddenly think that you're going to start like climbing and jumping off, walls or something. It's exciting, it's thrilling, it's about somebody, overcoming challenges and everything. And you leave and you think, oh, that happens in the imaginary world of media. And I think that's what we need to see about think of porn as. It is thrilling, it's exciting, it's arousing. We can engage with ethical porn if we don't like the idea of mainstream porn because of whatever. But that is not real. It is a tool. It's a tool to excite you, to arouse you. You shouldn't be replicating it. You shouldn't be bringing it into your you shouldn't be replicating it in any way. So don't feel so dependent on it in some ways. Yeah.
And I think that's across ages again, right? So
Absolutely. It's got nothing to do with the youth, I think. And actually, older people feel more worried that, like, we have so many people who come and say, oh, I'm addicted to porn. I'm addicted to porn because I have to watch it every day. Like, it's, you're not addicted, but yes, like if it's interfering with your relationship and everything, build your own fantasies, and that is it. It's really part of the flow, foreplay and pleasure, when you can actually start fantasizing what you like, how you like, and start fantasizing with your partner, and you will see how the arousal and the pleasure really increases when you fantasize with. So if porn feels like an issue or you feel like it, try breaking it up and thinking about, self fantasizing rather than a visual stimulus. Start imagining how you would fantasize rather than watching something. Or reading erotic literature, like that's another tool that you could use if pornography is feeling problematic.
Yeah, you had mentioned. So then I want to talk to you a little bit and know your thoughts about something that I penned over here, that there's a constant pressure of being a good lover, right? And the youth tend to engage with whatever's trending at the time. So almost like the goalpost is constantly changing. I want you to comment a little bit on that, please.
Yeah, I think this is a huge issue because I think the pressure of, what is popular or what is shown, and it might not even be pornography, but they might see something in a movie or something like that. There's so much the OTT platforms, like, which I sometimes laugh about because it's literally like, oh, we have free pass for sex, so we will just add sex. Like if you think about Game of Thrones, the first couple of series had so much sex, which was so irrelevant to the whole series. And then towards the end, they barely had any sex, right? So it's just like, oh, we could show sex and we could show naked people, so we'll just put it on there. And so a lot is seen, and so what I would like to say is that just because you see it, and then there are obviously other social media influencers that talk about other trending things. We did a podcast on NoFap, which is a massive movement, so many celebrities, which is like men giving up masturbation. Now, what I would say to people is there will be a lot of things trending. There will be a lot of things that work for people. And I'm not even saying you should or shouldn't do something. You want to give up masturbation, give up masturbation. But masturbation is a healthy thing. It's a stress release. It works for young people. It's pleasurable. It helps you connect with your body and all of those things. So don't give it up just because it's in fashion. Give it up if it's your choice. Give it up if it is something that is working for you or it helps you in some ways. But stop following or doing things because they're trending. And it's the same thing with actually engaging with sex. Just because it's trending that if you're in a romantic relationship, you must be physical, but you don't feel comfortable with that, don't engage with it. The long-term consequences of it will be far more harmful. If you engage with something that you're not interested in, it's not giving you pleasure, you feel like, oh, I'm forced doing it because everybody is doing it, it'll come to haunt you later on. So knowing your own choices and your personal choices of what you like and what you want are really important, and don't do it just because something is trending or people tell you you're so lame, everyone's doing it, so you must do it. That should be the last reason to do something.
You said the word haunting, and it brings me right to my next question of where we're talking of the youth, a generation that's born online. Everything is digital, and now thanks to the pandemic, even your sexual acts. I mean, now we're almost in like a semi-lockdown situation in India as well, right? So how does one keep oneself safe digitally? It's a year
So
and a
I
half,
think this,
almost 2 years later.
yeah, and I think this is a very tricky question, and this is very tricky and very problematic for the young people. And I really do think that um, you know parents and teachers and everybody, that's why I need to re-engage and start talking to people, because the only way to protect yourself is by not sharing sexual images of yourself online. That's the only way. Like, there are no guarantees that it won't be shared, it can't be leaked, it can't go viral. There are no guarantees of that, right? um, but I understand that it's easier said than done, because, like you said, that's how people in the pandemic have been engaging sexually, is by digitally having sexual relationships. But I would really want people to, as in, the bottom line is, what I would always say to a young person is, do not send sexual pictures or take things. And even if it's the videos, who holds the video, right? Like, there's this big trend of making videos, sex videos and everything, but are you holding on to the videos? Is your that partner holding on to the videos? So who has access to it, and who's holding on to it? So, one, be careful about that. Two, try avoiding actually sharing pictures of yourself. But three, even if you do, and I don't want to be that person, because I'm sure half the youth listening to us are thinking, oh, those aunties know nothing, we need to do it, that's how it happens. But what I will say is, how you can really protect yourself is to listen to your feelings. If there are any red flags, or there's anything telling you, I don't feel good about this, I am not feeling good about this, there's a funny feeling in my stomach, I don't know what that funny feeling is, listen to those feelings, because they're just indications of, I'm not feeling safe, it's not okay. And it's, in this situation, it's better safe than sorry. So even if, for that, even if it's a wrong feeling or it doesn't work, doesn't matter, but at least, just in case, it was a protective call, that not feeling right about this relationship, or not feeling right about doing this, then at least you can be safe. So I would really say, listen to your instincts, listen to your gut feelings. Definitely say no. Like, if somebody is saying, send me a picture, send me a picture, send me a picture, please do not feel like, oh my god, he or she is going to leave me if I don't send the picture. The world has lots of men and women, lots of guys and girls waiting for you. So do not feel pressured to say, oh, I must send it because they will leave me or something like that. Like I said, just don't do it under pressure, because you want to be safe, and there is no other safety other than not sharing it. But if you want to go ahead and do it, then be aware of the consequences and have the robustness. I think we have to build a robustness that, if, say, something happens in the future, we are strong enough to deal with it. And that's where the parents come in. It's not the end of the world if things go wrong. It's fine. Life goes on. It will be a bump in life, but you are strong enough, robust enough to deal with the consequences, and you don't become a bad person, or or anything, or like there's no future just because something goes wrong. It's okay. You're strong enough to face the world and do what you have to.
I think that's a very important word, to be robust, because I mean, we have heard of situations where something is leaked and the person's been, suicidal, or it's very disturbing. So I think just becoming resilient and robust is very important, and know of the consequences. And I'm getting messages on the side that, in the interest of time, that I do want to ask you two more questions. Definitely, you were talking about parents, right? So So we hear a lot about sexual fluidity, and young people, I think, in my opinion, are more likely to be experimental and you want to explore yourself. So how does one approach this topic with friends and family?
So that's, it's a really important question, because I think it is one of the hardest thing to do when we don't identify as heterosexual, because the world is heterosexual. So how do we share this news? Firstly, it's so hard to accept for yourself, but you kind of get the indication, who you're attracted to, who you want. And like you said, today there's a lot of sexual fluidity where young people are experimenting and having sex with both sexes, and there is no judgment around it. It's quite fluid, it's quite accepted. But how do you share that information with friends and family? And one thing that I would say is that it is really difficult. There is a big fear of being rejected, or for people that you loved your whole life to be angry or upset with you or abandon you. So please go and get a support network. Somebody, first share with somebody that you think will definitely understand you, will support you. And and there are a lot of organizations today that, run groups or have had previous experiences. So at least that you have, there might, coming out might come with pain. So where are you going to take that pain? Who are you going to go and share it with? We know uh, people with the LGBTQ community tend to have really high mental health issues, simply because a lot of times they are bullied, and also because there are no safe spaces to talk about what they're struggling with. So it will take a lot of courage to finally come out, and that should be your choice. Once again, it's not a social media trending circus to come out. Choose who you come out with, decide who you want to come out with. It's a lifelong journey, it is a difficult one. And be ready for it, but make sure that you have a support network that can hold you, because you don't know how things are going to go. Your parents might, and also don't always think that the parents will definitely reject you. You'll be surprised. I think a lot of parents are now more accepting and more loving for it. So don't go with a negative attitude, but make sure you have a support network.
I think that's so important. Like yesterday, I think it's important to distinguish also mentally that psychosexual safety and psychological safety, there's a difference, right? So I think the psychological safety aspect of it has to also be really focused on to have those networks and to get the help whenever you require. I think people hesitate, but I'm so happy, the irony of it, Anvita, that today, because of the pandemic, the conversation, of mental health is so front and center. That's one thing I'm grateful to the pandemic for. That, oh my God, when I would talk of it, they'd be like, oh, attention getting tactic, and ye amir logo ki bimari hai. And I was just like, it's not amir logo ki bimari. Everybody has a mental health, everybody has a physical health. But I'm greedy, and I'm going to continue and ask you one more question, and I can keep messaging you. In terms of time, I'm getting messages. But I think it's very important. This wouldn't be complete if we didn't address this question, right? That if you want to be experimenting with your sexuality as a young person, how do you stay safe? How do you stay safe?
Yeah. So so I'll share a story.
But I have to tell you this. I remember I was 18, and all of us, Rasika, Neha, me, Meghna, a bunch of us had gone to London, and I was 18, and I was in one of those old school red phone booths, right? And I remember seeing an ad there, and it blew my mind. It was something about, bisexual something and some number, and I was, oh my God, this is like interesting. Like, nobody even knew. And of course, better sense prevailed. I said, okay, this is very exciting and all that. Does not seem safe. But you have to have that in your mind, right? If you're experimenting, where, when, how, what has to be considered. And that's such a thing, picture etched in my mind, that red phone booth, and we were all traveling together. Like one crazy holiday.
So no, absolutely. So I'm going to answer the question both ways. so one is experimenting, like when do you have your first sexual experience, right? And what does that look like and what does that mean? And like we said previously, do it, really think. People really don't understand this concept, and they think, oh, the other person is responsible for my sexual pleasure. We really need young people to understand that your sexual pleasure is, you have to take ownership of it. This idea that, oh, there's a great lover and that he's so good or she's so good in bed and that he just knows, doesn't exist. Some people might like, to be touched inside your thigh, right? Some people might be grossed out at the thought, like thing. So your sexual pleasure is dependent on you. You need to understand your body, and you need to know what is pleasurable for you, what grosses you out, what do you like, what do you not like, and you have to communicate this to your partner and say, this is what I like. Or it doesn't need to be a 10-point conversation, like point one, this is where you should touch me, point two. But they will, if they are listening and absorbing, they will see where you feel aroused, where you start smiling, where your body relaxes, it changes, versus where you tense up when you're thin. But you need to have this awareness, and you need to guide this. So there is this myth that there's some people who just are so good in bed and know it and everything. Yes, they might be more adventurous. Yes, they might be more confident. Yes, they might be more comfortable. But when it comes to you, you are the person who knows your sexual needs and your sexual pleasure the best. So as and when you decide you have to decide when you're ready to explore this. Right? So when you're talking about, I want to experiment, you should feel ready saying, oh, this is something really that I feel excited about, I feel aroused about, I really am interested in, I want to do this. It should never be under pressure. It should never be because my friends really want to go and do this. It should be when you're ready for it, and you want to do it. And then you can, and I think it will be an individual choice. I'm not going to come from a moral judgment of like, it needs to be in a long-term relationship and it needs to be with the right person and all of that. I don't think that's true today. It's so you have to personally decide who, when, where, and just make sure that you do it in a safe place. Like if you're deciding to meet somebody, and it might not be your first sexual experience, but if you're using Tinder, try meeting somebody in a public place just to match up the safety angle there, right? Just don't go meet someone at an unsafe place. See how do you really like them. It's not necessary if you met somebody online that you might actually like them in person. So give yourself some room and space to be safe. Try meeting them with a friend or otherwise, so you have a get out pass if things don't look okay or not looking okay. And also, and these are true for same sex versus opposite sex. Like it doesn't matter. I think all these things that I'm talking about are agnostic about if you identify as gay or straight. Like I think they remain the same. And I think what has changed now is that earlier it was very easy for people to fall prey of abuse in same-sex relationships because they didn't have anywhere to experiment. So it was the older people, who would basically could groom you into, and that used to happen sometimes, not all the times. Now I think, maybe there are more opportunities and there are more chances with young people that are available because there are more people open to same-sex relationships. So find somebody who is on your wavelength, approves of these things, is in the same wavelength, rather than pursuing someone who might turn around and bully you or make fun of you or put you down. So there are all these things to watch out for as and when you think about engaging in a physical relationship. And key thing is somebody who respects your pace and your decision making. When they hear the no, or they hear the okay, I don't like this, and they accept it, versus pushing you towards something. So be mindful of that as well.
Thank you so much, Anvita. I mean, I could keep asking you questions till the cows come home. But, a few points that really stuck out to me, and I made a couple of notes, is that there's really no protocol, figure out where your networks lie, uh, become robust and resilient, I feel, as well, and that learn to say no and listen to your gut, essentially, right? Those would be the
Absolutely.
main takeaways.
Absolutely. Know yourself and trust your gut. I really want people to take that message. And when you know yourself, your gut will tell you this is not okay. But a lot of times people don't know themselves. So it's so hard to trust your gut because, so know, like reflect on yourself, understand your body, look at your body, explore your body, and then you will know when things don't feel right.
And one of the next conversations that I want to have with you is, I think over time we become jaded, right? And life takes over and experiences happen. But how do you know that it is data or it's your demons showing up? So trauma, right? Essentially, how do you know if your gut, you think it's your gut? Is it your gut or is it your past trauma getting triggered? So that's a conversation I definitely want to have with you at some point.
Absolutely. Trauma triggers can be, and that's why you need to work through your trauma, so that, it's not the trauma that is coming in, but it's actually, you can read the other person and not your triggers. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amrita, for joining. It's always so great to have a conversation and learn from you. Such a treasure trove.
No, thank you so much for having me on this panel. And I'm glad the technology worked. I was pretty nervous about it. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amrita. And for our closing for day one, Mr. BG is going to join us again and take over.
Great. Thank you so much, Nina. And thank you, Dr. Anvita Madan. It was a very interesting conversation. I think I sat through all 40 minutes and we didn't really wanted to finish this, but definitely we've come or in fact overrun our time for the day. So thank you for joining us, and thanks to all our panelists. Thanks to Ravi sir for delivering the opening keynote address. I think it was a very great start to a super action-packed next 4 to 5 days. So the next 4 to 5 days, we will have so each day has a theme. Today we were talking about young people. Tomorrow everything will be around youth, but this was more around multi-stakeholder conversations, then talking about psychosexual safety. Tomorrow is going to be focusing a panel on talking about how young people and youth organization can play a key role. It's a panel full of very interesting young change makers, and we have also representative from UNV, YP Foundation, the YP Foundation. Then we have two young change makers, both doing extensive work in young people's healthcare. Then we also have somebody from Purpose talking about campaigns, and this will be led by Saddam, who's the founder of Yaol and was mentioned in today's conversation earlier today. Post that, we have a workshop tomorrow, which is led by the YP Foundation. It's talking about how do we break down men and masculinity, and we will be doing it over Zoom. So if you are interested in this workshop and you have not signed up through our registration link, so I will request you to do that. And we can have the QR code put up, so somebody from my MASH team can have the link show up in the background, and then through that you can scan that and share your feedback, as well as if you're interested to join for that workshop, leave your put your email in the comments and we will send you a sign up link. Let me just hold on. Is there a way to get? Okay, we will come back to it. I will quickly run you through the agenda for the next 2-3 days. Then on 14th, we are talking about sexuality, and we have a very power-packed, a very influencer-packed panel, which will be again moderated by Nina. And we have Seema Anand, who is a well-known author and the Kama Sutra expert. Her TED Talk has been viral and has been watched by over millions and millions of people. Personally, I see her Instagram and her YouTube post, and they are very interesting content. So she'll be joining us. This is again on between 5 and 6 on 14. All days we are doing it between 5 to 7, just in case you want to mark. So please block your calendars for this, and we will be live on our social media handles and through our media partners. Quint Fit, Daily Hunt will be also live there as well. Then we have Garima Surana from Popcast, Paromita Bora of Agents of Fish joining us on the panel on 5th. Post that, we have a workshop on digital campaign and storytelling, which will be again on Zoom, because we would like the audience to be engaged in a more closer space. So if you are interested for that workshop, please do leave your email so we can have you send the link to sign up. And all sessions are free of cost, so you can find more details on our event website, and we'll just put up the QR code. Fourth day, 15th Jan, is about innovation, entrepreneurship, and again some interesting conversation around pleasure and politics. So a good panel of some of the entrepreneurs. So we have Sachi Malhotra, of the founder of The Sassy Thing. Then we have Karishma Swaroop, again an influencer and who talks a lot about positive pleasure and quite popular among young audience. Then we have Kavita Agegari, who's the country director of Howard Delafield, and they have created a very unique game to engage young people on some of these important issues. And we have Anusha Mishra, who's who's from the Revival Disability magazine, and they will be talking about the work they do there. This will be led by Dr. Rajat Chaba, who's been joining us from the US. He's a senior technical advisor at Chapago and has been promoting a lot of innovation within this space. Post that, we have a very interesting discussion, which includes having Lisa Mangaldas, again a very popular influencer and a positive pleasure content creator, and Anish Kavande, who's created Pink List India. Again, a very interesting curated list of politicians who support LGBTQI issues, and he'll be joining us from London. And the final day, 5th day, Sunday, as we call it, a fun day Sunday. We have a bunch of very, very interesting artists, actors, poets who will be coming and talking about or expressing their thoughts and their views through different art forms. We have Taranjeet Kaur, who's a very well-known actress. We have uh, Harish Iyer, one of the prominent voices in the space of LGBTQI and sexual and reproductive health spaces. Then we have Maya's Amma, who's going to be talking about parenting along with Niyati Shah and Nina. Again, I love her content, and I'm glad that we have all these great names joining us. Jigyasa Labru from Slam Out Loud, Nitish Anand, Aisha Adlakha. So the list goes on, right? So all of this information you can find up on our event website. So we'll have the QR code put up now. I'll request my team to get the QR code up. So all of you can scan it, leave it, just takes 30 seconds. Please give us your feedback so we know what you enjoyed today and how we can improve or what we can do better in the next coming few days, and of course in our future programs. And thanks a lot for joining us today. We'll connect back again with you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Thank you so much.